A two-vehicle crash this evening on Glasgow and Navarro. 2 people were hurt. And Victoria will hold a public hearing Tuesday on the 2024 fiscal year budget and tax rate proposal. Plus, free breast cancer screenings offered earlier today in downtown Victoria.
We're going to be taking a close look at Hurricane Idalia. Idalia is right off the west coast of Cuba. It's going to be headed northbound. People in places like Tampa Bay and St. Petersburg, they better get ready because it'll be there tomorrow night. We'll have all on that coming up in a moment.
And week 1 was filled with upsets and dominant performances. We reflect on week 1 in sports.
You're watching 25 News now at 10. Good evening and thank you for joining us. I'm Karina Garcia. Don Brubaker has the night off. Just before 5:30 p.m. this evening, 2 vehicles were involved in a crash on Glasgow and Navarro. Both of the drivers were minors and were taken to the hospital with minor injuries. Traffic was delayed for about 30 minutes as authorities assisted the scene. Now, this oversized load made its way out of the Coleto power plant this morning. It's an electrical infrastructure component and went south on Highway 59 to Fannin, into Goliad, north on Highway 183, and on Highway 119 into Yorktown. Drivers were warned ahead of time on social media, but it still took several hours to make the trip. After 27 years serving the Victoria Fire Department, Chief Robert Fox is retiring. Chief Fox and his family feels now marks the perfect time for him to retire. The chief has watched several generations come and go through the fire department, and he believes the Victoria Fire Department will thrive post his retirement.
The success of the Victoria Fire Department is not the fire chief. It's the men and women of the Victoria Fire Department. They've made the Victoria Fire Department successful long before I got there, and they'll make it successful long after I'm gone.
Chief Fox stressed over the decision for a while. He says leaving the Victoria Fire Department was like leaving friends and family. Chief Fox is extremely proud of the fire department and says the team is the best team in Texas. And now let's take a look at your forecast with First Warn Storm Team Chief Meteorologist Mac Bettis.
Thank you very much, Karina. Tonight, the storm, which is known as Hurricane Idalia, is strengthening up to a Category 1 overnight. By tomorrow, it'll be in the very warm waters of the eastern Gulf, and it'll be a Category 2 or 3 before it starts moving ashore to the Big Bend of Florida. We're going to be talking about who has to get going tonight because it's going to be as soon as tomorrow. All that coming up in just a moment. Back to you, Karina.
Mac, thank you. The investigation into what caused an NV-22 aircraft to crash while conducting a multinational training exercise in Australia is now underway. At least 3 Marines were killed and 5 others were critically hurt.
An urgent investigation underway in the deadly U.S. Marine Osprey crash during a multinational training exercise on Sunday.
I mean, the Osprey is a very unique aircraft. It's effectively a helicopter which turns into a plane in flight. It is a troop carrier. There were 23 people on board.
President Biden and the First Lady offering their condolences to the families of the Marines killed and injured. U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin also paying tribute and highlighting that Sunday's exercise was an allied effort to counter China's increasing military presence in the Pacific.
We continue to increase the rotational presence of U.S. forces in Australia, which will enhance our maritime domain awareness in the region.
ABC News contributor Steve Ganyard, who is a retired colonel in the Marine Corps, says there is a black box on the Osprey, which will help investigators.
The weather was good at the time, so investigators will look at human factors, but also mechanical problems.
Concerns also mounting from previous deadly Marine Osprey crashes. 16 people have died in 5 other crashes involving the military aircraft since 2012.
This is the second fatal accident in just a few days for the Marine Corps. It may be time to stop, take a step back, and make sure that the Marine Corps is doing everything it needs to do to fly safely.
Just last month, a military investigation found that 5 Marines died in an Osprey crash in California last year due to a catastrophic, unpreventable, and unanticipated mechanical failure. This was when a problem with the clutch caused right engine failure, sending the aircraft out of control. Melissa Adon, ABC News, Los Angeles.
In Iowa, 5 people are recovering from mostly minor injuries after a truck crashed into a house early Monday morning. The State Patrol says the driver suffered a medical emergency, causing him to veer off into the road into a ditch and then briefly go airborne into the home. The driver, 3 passengers along with 1 person inside the house were sent to the hospital. By Monday afternoon, the side of the home was boarded up and authorities haven't yet determined what kind of medical emergency the driver had. 3 killed and 6 hospitalized in a shooting at a historic biker bar out in California. Here's more.
I mean, he's struggling to breathe because of where the bullet went. It went through one of his lungs.
Cook's Corner shooting victim Mike Bertuccini will spend his 48th birthday Tuesday in an Orange County intensive care unit as doctors and nurses help him recover from what could have been a life-ending injury.
It could be months. We're still not sure. He's still in ICU.
Bertuccini's wife Marie wants friends and family to know that they've all played a part in saving him. Had it not been for a Boy Scout meeting, their 6-year-old might have been at Cook's Corner last week.
In the hospital room, he told his dad, "Be brave and strong, Dad. I know you're brave and strong, just like me." So cute. Sad.
A large memorial has been put in place in Trabuco Canyon in front of the roadside bar and grill that remains closed. At the center are photos of the 3 people killed. Irvine's John Leahy and Orange County residents Tanya Clark and Glenn Sproul Jr. Sproul had 2 young children who live out of state.
He came to Arizona frequently to visit his kids. He was here, I think, every single month. I saw him all the time. So it felt like he just lived here. We always saw him at soccer games. And last year we went trick-or-treating with him and the kids. He was super fun. He was always taking the kids out on quads or taking them to the pool to swim in the summertime.
There are several online fundraising accounts set up to benefit Cook's Corner victims and employees.
Tomas is good. This is in the hospital.
One is for cook Tomas de la Rosa, who was shot in the arm. Another is to help pregnant employee Savannah Hopkins, whose truck was damaged in the shooting. A witness says she begged the gunman to spare her life.
According to investigators, Snelling drove from Ohio and tracked down his wife at this bar. The couple was involved in a bitter divorce, and Snelling's wife was shot in the jaw, but she was able to survive. Now, the proposed budget for the city of Victoria for the fiscal year of 2024 includes $97.6 million for capital improvement projects like the new public safety headquarters. The city is recommending a property tax rate of $0.4898 per $100 property valuation, a decrease of $0.0684 for 13% from last year's tax rate. Tomorrow, there's going to be a public hearing and vote on the budget and tax rate. A final public hearing and final vote is set for September 5th. The City Council meeting starts at 5 p.m. at 105 West Juan Lynn Street. The University of Texas Health Houston program brought its Rose mobile screenings to downtown Victoria Monday. The program is aimed at expanding access to women who are 40 years or older in need of a breast cancer screening that they would not be able to otherwise receive.
Getting a mammogram for them is an opportunity to find something in time when you can actually get treatment successfully and be a cancer survivor. So that is our goal, to extend life and quality of life.
You can get screened for breast cancer at a clinic, hospital, or doctor's office. To learn more about the Rose mobile screenings, come to crossroadstoday.com. And with that, here is your viewer poll tonight. Scan that QR code on your screen to vote now. The question is, do you get regular cancer screenings? Yes or no? According to these results tonight, 60% say yes and 40% say no. Thank you for voting tonight. Now, the Texas Tribune has an update in the Ken Paxton impeachment trial. Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick named Lena Myers, a former state appeals court judge in North Texas, as his counsel for the upcoming trial of suspended Attorney General Ken Paxton. We also have this story on crossroadstoday.com. KROE.com. And remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Crossroads Today. Hit the like button and click that notification bell. For now, stay with us. Coming up on 25 News Now at 10, a University of South Carolina student shot and killed when he tried to enter the wrong home in Columbia Saturday morning. Also ahead, the Hawaiian Electric Company puts out its first statement regarding claims their company caused the devastating wildfires in Maui. A University of South Carolina student from Connecticut was shot and killed as he tried to enter the wrong home in Columbia early Saturday morning. The Columbia Police Department is investigating the incident, which was reported around 2 a.m. Saturday. The victim attempted to enter the wrong home when he was shot to death. The Richland County Coroner's Office identified the victim as Nicholas Anthony Donoferio. He was a sophomore at the school. The Hawaiian Electric Company has released its first statement regarding claims their company caused the devastating fire on Maui. Several lawsuits were filed against Hawaii Electric for what's categorized as neglect in the utility-caused fire. The company provided a timeline for the August 8th fires, noting their power crews called 911 to get fire crews to the scene after workers spotted flames in a field near a school. They say that blaze is what firefighters were not able to contain, and it's what spread out of control. Yale University settled a lawsuit with students who claim they were discriminated against due to mental health disabilities. The plaintiff said the students had to withdraw if they showed symptoms of severe mental health disability. They were then barred from visiting campus without permission. Under the settlement, Yale removed a mandatory minimum time to be away from school when leaves of absences are taken. It also agreed to allow students on medical leave to have more access to campus. There's new evidence that the types of food you eat, specifically later in life, could affect your risk of developing heart disease or cancer.
What you eat for dinner is often guided by what's available or recent cravings, but a more strategic approach can have long-lasting effects. A recent study published in the Journal of Internal Medicine looked at the heart health of 370,000 people ages 50 through 70 on various diets for more than 20 years. Researchers found that diets low in saturated fats like butter and palm oil, but high in plant proteins like beans, tofu, and nuts were associated with less heart disease, cancer, and death in people 50 to 70 years old. On the other hand, people who ate diets high in processed carbs, high in butter, and who got protein from meat struggled with more heart problems, cancers, and deaths from many different causes. The next time you decide to plan a family dinner, especially with grandparents coming, you might want to consider a more plant-based approach to the menu. Choose chicken, fish, or a vegetarian option, lots of fruits, veggies, nuts, and reach for the olive oil instead of butter. With this Medical Minute, I'm Micah Giacchi.
Florida leaders say residents need to be ready for evacuation orders and power outages as Tropical Storm Idala approaches. The National Hurricane Center predicts it will turn into a hurricane and strike the Gulf Coast Tuesday. Florida State Emergency Management Director is warning coastal residents about storm surge. Governor Ron DeSantis says other parts of the state will see impacts as well.
A lot of people thought it would end up being a tropical storm. Then they said, well, maybe a Category 1. Then yesterday it was, oh, maybe it'll hit Cat 2. Now there really doesn't seem anything to prevent it from continuing to strengthen. This is going to be a major impact, and Floridians should expect that this storm will be a major Cat 3 plus hurricane.
Florida homeowners are already nervous about this storm. Several major insurance companies have pulled out of the state in recent months. Now, several gas stations in Southwest Florida were impacted by fuel contamination ahead of the tropical storm. More than 24 gas stations across Florida's Gulf Coast, including several in Tampa area, were affected. The Florida Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services says the contamination involved a human error at a port of Tampa that contaminated fuel for gas stations supplied by Citgo with diesel. They say any fuel purchased at those gas stations Saturday after 10 a.m. could likely be contaminated with diesel.
That is not a good thing, especially when a lot of people need to evacuate from the coast. The storm, Idalia, will be strengthening tomorrow and then moving ashore. We'll talk exactly where it's going to hit on Florida, and we'll talk about how it affects us in a very different way. All that coming up in just a moment. Well, good evening, everyone. 86 degrees right about now. You might have noticed it was a little warm this afternoon. Yeah, it got up to 107 or just before 4 o'clock. And now it's not the record, but who needs it? You know what? We're now the second longest streak of 100-degree days that we've ever recorded. So we're well beyond the record books. Now, the good news is that with the dry air that we got in today, we may get down into the mid or maybe even low 70s tonight, which would be nice if we could cool off at least in the morning hours. Now, we did have a few little showers that rolled around the area. You might have seen the nice cloud deck that came through right about sundown. All of that is pretty much over with, but you can see I found that Karnes City out there, hello Karnes City, got 0.12 of an inch of rain, so it wasn't a lot. And you might, what you really will notice is that why is all of this moving south? Normally that would be a cool front. That would be wind from the north. That would be cooler air, right? Not this time. I'll tell you why. While we were rather warm, as you can see right about there, tomorrow pretty much the same thing. We are on the backside of the hurricane on the East Coast. When we do that, we get a northerly wind which goes offshore and warms up and dries up. It's called a downslope wind. But let's talk about Florida because they're going to get it tomorrow. The storm center is right off the coast of the western tip of Cuba. It will strengthen to a 1, 2, and possibly a 3. And look at that, very close to the coast. Now, places from Tampa Bay, around Cedar Key, all the way to Apalachicola, you may as well make it to Panama City, are under the gun. Most specifically, in my opinion, will be Tampa Bay. I'll tell you why. 1, it'll be a 3, category 3 right next to it. 2, direct wind will take a fetch of water all the way through the bay and into the low-lying areas of the city. I'm telling you, St. Petersburg, Sarasota, Tampa Bay, we're really going to get it tomorrow because of the way the storm is pinned. Then, as it moves ashore, it will start bringing heavy rains across the peninsula into southern Georgia and all the way into North Carolina. So right here where you see the red and the orange, that's probably in the 4 to 8 inches of rainfall, which will start here in Tampa and then move north and then roll all the way up the southeastern seaboard. If you have interests anywhere from the North Carolina to Florida, you better check in with the hurricane. Now, the map. Here's the dome out here on the western states. Here's the low as it approaches tomorrow. Now, as you can see right about there, when the storm is there, the wind is going in this fashion, which is counterclockwise. In the front of the high, it's clockwise. So we've got a strong northerly wind blowing over Texas, and that is going to be clear, dry air. In fact, I'm thinking that by Wednesday, we may even have some high fire dangers because the winds will be rather brisk as well as it blows through the area. So high pressure eventually will move to the east, and that will bring the Gulf flow back into our region. If you happen to have time to do a little fishing tomorrow, just know that the winds are northerly and your sunrise is at 7:04. High today, or tomorrow rather, 96 in Port Lavaca, and in Cuero we're looking for a 98. Everybody else will be hovering right at the triple digits all the way through this week. That's your 7-day forecast. Want to remind everybody we do have a QR code. We'd love for you to scan that and put Crossroads Today on your cell phone. Here is Gino with sports.
Thanks, Mac. We see where the top-ranked teams in the area stand after week 1. That and more after the break. At a Crossroads, week 1 is in the books, and week 2 looks to bring even more excitement than the last. Here are the latest rankings. The Refugio Bobcats had a tough matchup against a bigger school in the Hitchcock Bulldogs. Refugio had a tight hold on the game, but it looked as if fatigue set in, and the Bulldogs came through and took the lead in the final minutes of the game. Final score 43-36. Refugio was the top-ranked team in the state to start the year, but are now at number 2, just behind the Timpson Bears, who won its game 50-13. The Bobcats are taking on another Class 3A school in the London Pirates. Unlike Hitchcock, the Pirates are not ranked in the state. The game will be played in Refugio on Friday night. The Shiner Comanches are in a similar position that they were in last year. They lost Game 1 to the Hallettsville Brahmas for the second year in a row, and this one was a slaughter. Hallettsville handed Shiner its first loss of the season, 41-8 in Shiner country. With this loss, Shiner is knocked out of the top 10 and the rankings altogether. But after being ranked number 9 to the start this year, they're looking to bounce back in week 2 against a potential Game of the Week candidate. That game features 2 area teams, with the Comanches against the Industrial Cobras. The Industrial Cobras are also coming off a loss to the Yoakum Bulldogs. The Cobras are hosting the Comanches in its home opener. After this week, one of the teams will have a 0-2 start for the first time in recent memory. The first area team to make a jump up the ladder instead of down are the Tidehaven Tigers. The Tigers jumped up the board over Goliad after the Goliad Tigers could not get anything going on offense. The Harmony Eagles lose and drop out of the top 3, meaning Tidehaven jumped up. In week 2, the former state semifinalists will play the Oldham Owls. The Owls are also 1-0 on the year, coming off a win against Karnes City 18-7. The Tigers are hosting its second home game of the year and looking to start 2-0. Next up in our potential game of the week are the Edna Cowboys, as they stand pat at number 3 in the state, coming off a victory over the East Bernard Brahmas, winning 41-27. Now the Boys in Blues are going to have its biggest test of the year up to this point against the number 8 ranked Bay City Black Cats. This game will be played in Edna and should be a good one. The Cuero Gobblers stand strong at number 4 in the state after a dominating win over the then-ranked El Campo Ricebirds, which are not ranked anymore. Cuero dominated all the aspects of the game and only allowed 1 touchdown in the third quarter, but went on to win 41-7. In week 2, the Green and White travel up to Geronimo Navarro to take on the Panthers. The Navarro Panthers beat Navasota 34-8 in week 1, and these two teams know each other well, playing each other 8 times in the past 5 years, with the Gobblers coming out on top with a 5-3 record against the Panthers. Also, don't forget to vote on our viewer poll. Which game do you think should be the game of the week this week? The 2 games are the Edna Cowboys hosting the Bay City Black Cats, or the Shiner Comanches heading down to Industrial to take on the Cobras. And currently 80% of you think that Edna should be the game of the week. Well, thank you for voting, and you can still vote at crossroadstoday.com/sports. Well, that's your sports. Karina, back to you.
Thanks, Gina. Stay with us. Coming up on 25 News Now at 10, we'll take a last look at your weather with Mac. Plus, a massive hunt is underway in Scotland for the Loch Ness Monster. A 3.6 magnitude earthquake shook northeast Ohio around 10:43 p.m. Sunday night. While it's rare to have an earthquake in this part of the country, according to the chair of the Department of Earth, Environmental and Planetary Sciences at Case Western Reserve, this latest rumble could be because there are buried vaults that were active tens of millions of years ago. And when slight movements build up over time, that could eventually cause movement as an earthquake. Now, a couple from Lithuania won a wife-carrying competition in Hungary on Saturday. Most of the 15 couples in the contest were men competing the 260-meter-long obstacle course with their wives slung over their shoulders, chose the piggyback technique. However, the winners used the so-called type of Estonian carry, where the wife hangs upside down with her legs wrapped around her husband's shoulders, holding onto his waist. That was the strategy. Now, the contest is said to have origins dating back to the Viking era age, which makes sense because a Viking is something a Viking would do.
It's Viking dating.
Viking dating.
Imagine if you dropped her now, then you'd be in real hot water after that.
Goodness, carrying your wife over your, can you imagine that running?
No, I can't
doing
imagine.
a mud run too? Yeah.
And through the mud. Okay, honey, here we go.
Her face is just in the mud the whole time because,
hold your breath.
Whoever chose that strategy, I don't know. But anyway.
Hold your breath.
It's a Viking strategy.
They were probably cooler off than we were because we had a high today of 107, folks. Unbelievable. We are now the second longest streak of 100-degree days in one summer, and it's not over with just yet. We're going to be very dry and very sunny and very warm as we get the backwash or the backside of the hurricane that's going to be hitting Florida tomorrow. And if you know anybody between Tampa, Apalachicola, Panama City, they need to get ready tonight because tomorrow will be too late.
That's right. Thank you, Mac. Now, hundreds of people have joined the search for the mythical Loch Ness Monster in Scotland this weekend, the biggest Nessie hunt in over 50 years. About 100 volunteers were on site in the Scottish Highlands to scan the murky lake waters. Now, almost 300 people signed up to monitor an online live stream of the search. Participants flew drones with infrared cameras over Loch Ness and used a hydrophone to detect underwater sounds.
So about 20 years ago, when you're like a kid in school in America, you get assigned your first essay, and since kids don't really want to write essays, you get to choose your topic. You can choose any topic whatsoever, and I chose the Loch Ness Monster. I don't know why. Maybe I just recently saw a movie or I had read something, but I chose the Loch Ness Monster as my essay assignment, and I thought, oh, 20 years later, it comes full circle, so I might as well come and join the hunt since I heard it was happening.
In 2019, scientists analyzed DNA traces to rule out the presence of large animals such as dinosaurs, concluding that the fabled Loch Ness Monster could possibly be simply a giant eel. You guys think there's a Loch Ness Monster out there?
That's a big eel.
That's a big fat eel.
Well, that's a big eel, but I don't believe there's a Loch Ness monster. It's some sort of sea creature.
Some sort of giant eel, apparently.
See?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. Aliens and everything.
That's right. Well, thank you for watching and joining us for 25 News Now 10 tomorrow.